Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Work Matters, where we spend some time with members of our church, getting to know them and getting to know the good work that they are doing as God has called them to. And today we have the great privilege of spending some time with my friends Nathaniel and Elsemarie Mullins. I've known them for quite a while. I had the pleasure of being in their wedding out of state, and it's just been such a great joy to know them and to fellowship with them and to grow in Christ with them. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So hey, let's go ahead and jump to it, man. You guys have something really exciting coming up in the area of missions, and we talked a little bit about this. And then just for clarity, for the sake of our listeners, there's a possibility. Who knows? Down the road, maybe you guys become official partners of the Bible Church. But you guys are going on a 1-year assignment, and I wanted to give our church an opportunity to hear a little bit about this, so they can pray for you guys, so they can be encouraged by the work that you guys are doing. So you guys are heading out in December. You'll be gone for a year, heading to Thailand, working for the Cornerstone Counseling Foundation. Nathaniel, tell us a little bit more about that, about the work that you're going to be doing, and why you guys feel called to do this.
Yeah. So Cornerstone Counseling Foundation is a counseling center that provides mental health services to Christian workers and to Thai nationals. It's been around for decades, but they've got this really cool residency program that allows new graduates, someone like myself. I just finished seminary from Gordon Conwell with a master's in Christian counseling, so kind of in the mental health counseling world, but also lots of conversation, with faith and what it means to be a Christian and a counselor. So bringing those two fields together. And Cornerstone is a place where Christian workers can come when they need help. So this is a one-year position that we've got. Yeah.
All right, but I thought Christian workers were like heroes of the faith, and they've just got everything. They're all put together. They have no issues, right?
You're so right. Yeah,
just faith through your problems.
I'm pretty sure that when you go overseas, all of your problems disappear.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah. That's what I hear too. Well, tell us a bit about the importance of this work that you're doing, and why is it necessary? I mean, this organization's been around for decades, so this isn't necessarily a new realization, but I do think it's something that we are becoming more aware of as churches. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the importance and the need for this kind of work you guys are going to engage in.
Yeah, the need is huge. Counseling can benefit a number of people. So just imagine normal person off the street. Maybe they have some anxiety. Maybe they just have difficulty coping with major life transitions, something like that. Something that, a few sessions maybe could really help someone get oriented. So you take maybe that normal person who perhaps also has some stuff from their childhood. Maybe their parents got divorced. We know that divorce has been on the rise over the past several decades. So we take someone with some normal stuff, but then they move overseas. And now they've got all of the cross-cultural stuff. And then also, as you were just mentioning, maybe their expectations are that, now that I'm, a missionary and I'm out on the front lines, that means I need to really perform and I can't have any weaknesses. That's a lot of pressure for them to be putting on themselves. Hopefully not, but maybe their churches also put that pressure on them, or their supporters. So this becomes this pressure cooker where the normal problems in a cross-cultural context with enlarged expectations lead to sometimes moral failings and sometimes just incredible stress and burnout. And so a place like Cornerstone exists to help meet that need, where folks can go get the help that they need without having to come maybe all the way back to the States. Because sometimes too there can be this mindset of, I came over here and all of these problems started popping up. If I go back home and then I get all better, well, maybe that means that I can't be healthy and thriving on the field. Maybe I can only be better here. So Cornerstone's in that sweet spot where they're on the field, they're able to get the help that they need, realize, okay, I can work through these things, I can gain some new skills, and then I can go back to my context. Yeah. And then I guess to layer on top of that, like, these things maybe are coming up for the parents, but sometimes the kids also feel the effects of this. And so I'll be working with kids and teens as a mental health counselor. And the stress that the kids carry from the expectations that their parents have of themselves or people have of their parents. It just gets super messy, super fast.
Yeah, I want to present on that here in just a second, but I'd love to hear a little bit from Elsemarie too. And speaking of kids, you guys are moving, not just the two of you, moving with your sweet boy Simeon as well. Elsemarie, tell us a little bit about what your role is going to be while you guys are gone.
Yeah, well, at first, I'm definitely going to focus on taking care of Simeon. He'll be 2 as we're leaving. I think we're leaving on his 2nd birthday. And that'll be a shift because I've been working full-time currently, and Nathaniel's been taking care of him. So we're also going to need to find a place to live and how to cook and all of that good logistical stuff, learn how to drive. And so I'll be focusing on trying to just make sure that we're taken care of as a family unit, first off. And then once we feel a little bit more settled and Nathaniel's into a good routine at work, we'll see what other opportunities pop up. There's a lot to do, a lot of ways to serve. And I'm excited to kind of see where God leads me and what I feel is right in the coming months. So,
how does Simeon feel about Thai food?
He likes it.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves noodles. He'll say no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
loves
awesome.
Noodles. Loves shrimp.
He's not great with super spicy yet, but I think he'll grow into it. And I'm excited because this will be the first time Nathaniel's practicing full time. He's done clinical rotations, so he has been practicing in a clinical setting. But this will be a different level of intensity. So I'm excited to support him and support his coworkers as well.
Nathaniel, you mentioned these pressures that missionaries have. Sometimes they're self-imposed. Sometimes they can be imposed, whether real or not. They can be perceived as being imposed by their sending organization, by their supporters, by their home church, by a variety of factors, right? And you think you got to man, if I go and I don't achieve A, B, and C in this timeline, I'm a failure. And then a lot of that expectation, unfortunately, then carries weight into the home as well. And you were alluding to that, to the pressure that it puts on the kids. And that's going to be your area of focus. Could you give us, just speak into that a little bit more. I'd love to hear, from my side of things, just hear more and more about how difficult it can be for TCKs, right? For third culture kids, especially when they come back, they feel like the place where they were raised on the mission field is not fully home because they're a foreigner there. And then they come back stateside and they feel like, this isn't home either. Like, where is home, right? And there's an identity crisis. So how are you going to solve all of those issues during your 1 year there?
Yeah, well, definitely will not be solving all of the issues, but hopefully we'll get to walk alongside some kids and some teens who are wrestling with that and sit with them in that wrestling and help them, I guess, get better at the wrestling. So much of it is an ongoing conversation for kids as they figure out their identity. That's true here in the States, and it just gets more complicated if, your parents, view home as one place, but then your home has been another place. And then going home is really a complicated question. Sometimes, TCKs or third culture kids might feel more at home in the transitional space, between places. Like, home is the airplane, because that's where, that's been the most consistent experience, especially for kids who've moved a lot of different places. So getting to sit with kids, as they, wrestle with sometimes their faith, especially, as they get older. It's like, my parents were called here. I wasn't called here. Like, why am I here? And what it looks like, to to own those things for themselves. It's a really gnarly process, and it's something that like folks in the local churches can be sensitive to. It's not just something. Oh, this is counselors only. Counselors only should talk about this. Folks in local churches who support missionaries can be aware of some of that baggage, maybe that comes with being a TCK or with an MK, and to recognize like, hey, you're your own person. You're not just your parents. You're not just your parents' kid, and like taking an interest in them in their own right sometimes can go a long way.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of that, if you're in an intense setting and it's hard to make time for just family time, like the kids can feel left out of the real work, or kind of, if work always comes first, then where does family fall on the line of priorities? And so when a kid gets to go to a counseling room and the counselor, like Nathaniel will be, is just for them. It's not for their parents. It's not for anybody else. That can be powerful, just as it is for adults to go in and know, like, this person is just for me and my health. And so even if it's a short time or over the span of just a couple of weeks, like that can be huge for an individual.
Mm. Nathaniel, I'm really curious, the training that you've gotten to this point, so you're going to be doing a residency with Cornerstone, right? So that the implications there is that this is part of your ongoing training, right?
Yeah. So my education has formally finished. I have my degree, but this will be part of my building towards my hours to be fully licensed. So I'll be provisionally licensed in the state of North Carolina, but it's building my hours. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So my question is, I'm just curious, how much do you feel like your education has prepared you for this specific kind of work? And how much do you expect that the residency itself is going to be like, really the formational part of, okay, you got all this knowledge. In other words, did your training prepare you for working with missionaries in and their children, or are you going with a certain set of skills that now you're going to kind of hone in on as you serve there?
Both.
Okay, that's great.
I both feel prepared and feel totally unprepared, and it's a little bit of like a paradox. This like stepping into counseling. This is true just with an individual client, and it's true, on the big scale of like starting to see clients. Right, when I step into the room with someone that I've never met before, I don't know anything about them. Maybe I've like read some paperwork. Maybe I could start to make some assumptions based on some things that I read in that paperwork, but I don't know them. And I think that what is most helpful for someone is when the counselor is able to really step into their world and to accurately empathize with them, to try to see things as they see things, to hear things as they hear things, to not lose themselves in the story or to not lose themselves in the pain, but be able to sit with them in their world as best they can, and to communicate and to kind of reflect back what it must be like, perhaps, check me if I'm wrong, right? What and to empathize with them in that experience, that process of being known, that process of feeling felt, that process of really being heard, is a transformative one. So I think my education has given me a lot of skills to listen well in that very like particular way. And so in that sense, I feel prepared. And also each client is totally new. And so there might be quote unquote common problems that multiple clients share, but each client's take on their issues is unique. And so it requires balancing both that uniqueness and some of the commonalities. And you can read and do research about the commonalities between people, but no amount of reading prepares you to encounter a unique image of God. So that's a beautiful thing. And also, can't be totally prepared. So I'm excited and a little nervous.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot to hold.
I would say too, we don't want to discredit, like you've gotten to work at alongside which provides intensive counseling for missionaries, including their kids. And one of the unique things about Alongside and what Nathaniel got to do last summer is that they provide psychoeducational seminars and then individual counseling for adults. And the topics of the seminars are presented in age-appropriate ways at the teen, at the elementary age, and even at the early childhood age for their kids. So it's not just a childcare program. It's very much giving content to the whole family the same day. And so Nathaniel got to go into each of those settings for the adults and the teens and the kids and see some of how the staff worked and what they were doing. He's taken on play therapy. All of his clinical rotations in Durham were in the Durham public schools with teens and kids. And so most of your, practical experience so far has been with kids and teens. Mm-hmm. And it's still true that everyone is going to be unique and that you don't know what else you're going to come across.
Yeah. So I think I would say my training at seminary prepared me broadly for counseling, but not specifically for counseling with missionaries. That's something kind of an interest that I brought into the program. And then, had the opportunity to work at, there are half a dozen, tops a dozen of these places around the world that provide counseling services to missionaries. And Alongside is a stellar one, here in the States. So got to...
Little shout out to Carol and Jerry.
Yeah. Shout out to Carol and Jerry. That's right. So there was a phenomenal training ground. That was kind of the specific demographic training for working with this population.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I was just curious, how niche does the training become stateside, and then how much is it here you go, man?
Sure. Yeah, definitely while I am there, in Cornerstone, there will be a lot to learn. That's something that excites me about the field of counseling. There's always more stuff to learn, not just about clients, but then also about different theories or different techniques or interventions. The field itself is changing over time. So there will be lots of ongoing learning, building on the solid foundation that I got at Gordon Conwell. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm curious too, you mentioned that the work you're going to be doing is going to be with Christian workers. Mm-hmm. By that, I infer you're talking about maybe foreign Christian workers, mm-hmm. and then with Thai nationals as well. Are the Thai nationals, are they also Christian workers, or are they, just kind of anyone who walks in and wants the services?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not totally sure. Okay. I know that the Thai counseling world has maybe started in the past couple of decades. So it's something that, as part of my residency, I'll be helping provide support. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like yet. Okay. For the Thai counseling that Cornerstone provides. So I know some of what they've done is community education around the topics of mental health. So and I'll see.
And Cornerstone has several Thai counselors, right. Thai-speaking native Thai folks, and so mm-hmm. Nathaniel will be providing counseling to native Thai speakers most likely, but we'll be supporting those who do.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I would love to hear you guys talk about how faith and counseling intersect. I think there are people. So as a pastor, I have had people come to me for counseling, and we'll talk, and at some point I will say I'm not a professional counselor, and sometimes I'll say, and I think you should go see one, and sometimes I feel like the person I'm talking to is almost surprised by hearing that, and I don't know if there's still a bit of a cultural stigma against towards mental health in general, and then if even more precise and maybe even more acutely, if there's a stigma among Christians and thinking, we were kind of joking around, it's like, oh man, you're a Christian, you don't have any problems, right? Everything it's all good. Just pray. That's all you got to do, right? Mm-hmm. where's that balance? I mean, we can't discard either of those things, right? We can't say just pray. We also can't say just get counseling. There's a harmony. There's a balance there. How do you guys think through that? And how would you encourage people who are watching this, who may be curious about that? How would you encourage them to hold that tension?
Man, it's such a rich conversation to jump into. There are a number of resources that come to mind. There are a number of different ways of holding that tension, and the results can be different depending how you decide to hold the tension. I think of one way of approaching kind of the intersection of like psychology and Christianity. Maybe there's like a levels of explanation. Like, we're human beings, we have biology. And so there's also neurobiology. And so stuff maybe is happening at that level. But then also we've got relationships. And so things are happening sometimes at the relational level. And then there's also maybe just internal to your own head, and then there are spiritual things. So maybe there are like multiple layers of someone's experience, and how do those interact, and how do we see those interact? And if there's distress that enters in one, layer of your experience, how does that affect the other layers? That's like one way of approaching it. What I was just thinking of. I think this would take us down a different route, but I'll go this way for a little bit. I was thinking about when you were first talking, the parable of the sower. And oftentimes we think about that kind of in an evangelism context. And evangelism is something that, like, in the counseling room, is not my role. I think as a pastoral counselor, you always have an ear towards, how can the gospel intersect with this person's particular life? And as a mental health counselor licensed by the state, my role is to really honor and respect the client's values and whatever they're bringing. So if they have a faith and they want to bring that faith in, by all means, like, I would engage with them, from at that level with what they're bringing, but respecting kind of their autonomy in that sense. So with this parable of the sower, and thinking about, how does the hope of the gospel spread in the context of counseling if I'm not going to be like overtly sharing the gospel? Thinking about it as like the rocks of trauma in the soil of someone's life. And the work of counseling is taking out those rocks, identifying the rocks, naming the rocks, helping someone see, oh man, these are rocks. Man, this is really preventing my thriving. And doing the really difficult work of laboring alongside someone to remove those rocks, so that the soil of their life can be healthier. And maybe at some other point they can be receptive to the good news. So it's kind of a very, I was going to say very practical, but maybe it still feels abstract. But in terms of a practical way of seeing the relationship between how faith and how counseling intersects. Yeah.
I think about how you've mentioned like with anything, but especially where you're not in a context where you can be overtly sharing the gospel, you're just trusting the Holy Spirit to work, and trusting that God wants people to be healthy, and you can help lead people towards health, and that He'll keep working in people's lives, and trust that He knows what that person needs, and will continue to work. And I think about it as, just as if you were diagnosed with cancer, you would go and get help. Like if you're diagnosed with a mental health problem, or you just feel like you need help, it's okay to take advantage of all the tools that God has given us, right? Of medicine, of doctors, of good nutrition, of exercise. Not that those things will just make cancer go away, but all these things that help us be healthy. That counseling is just part of that gamut of different things that we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's it's just important to remember that we're whole people. And so each of these layers of our experience matter, and like pursuing health and biologically, as well as socially, as well as spiritually, as well as psychologically. All of that comes to bear on our overall health.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I love how you explained the parable of the sower and the application into your world. I think that's really helpful. Identify the rocks, and then let's give you some tools to remove those. And that is part of soil tilling, right? Yeah. The soil needs to be tilled so that the seed can find fertile soil, and that's that hard, sweaty, in the sun work that somebody has to do. And not many people want to do it. So thank you guys for stepping into that world. As we come to a close here, I'd just love to know how we can be praying for you guys.
So many ways. Most pressing lately has just been thinking about all of the logistics of moving across the world. And there are lots of details there. I think another thing that we've been considering is, like with the pressures that missionaries can face, as we're going and we're, raising support, it's also important for us to continue to pursue health, even while we're going through all the stresses of moving overseas. So thinking about like our own spiritual rhythms and our own self-care, as we move into a cross-cultural context. It's an ethical mandate in the field of counseling to have good self-care, because counselors who don't take care of themselves well end up hurting clients, maybe using the counseling space for their needs instead of having it be focused on the clients. Prayer for our health and our flourishing. As our family dynamic shift, as I'm stepping into working full-time and Elsemarie is stepping away from working a paid job full-time and taking care of Simeon, which is definitely a job, doing that full-time. Those are some things that come to mind. Lots of logistics, and then also our health and flourishing.
Yeah. And then I think also just, as we're seeing what's next, that we feel clarity. For me, in the coming months, there'll be lots of different options of things for me to do in Thailand, lots of different ways to plug in and serve in a variety of contexts. And I'm already aware of some of those, but I don't know what else God might have. And so I think just wisdom and clarity on, what's next for me in Thailand, and then also for us after we come back.
Well, that's great. And if people want to connect with you guys, to encourage you, to pray with you, to learn more, to partner with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, probably via email would be best, and we can make sure that you have our emails. Maybe put it in the show notes or something.
Yes, it'll be down there somewhere.
Got it.
Somewhere in the newsletter with the segment. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for your friendship over the years. I have fond memories, Elsemarie, of you coming over when our boys were little and jumping for a young adult thing at our old house. And next thing you know, you're out there on the trampoline with them for hours and hours, and that was really sweet. So we're really thankful for you guys. Excited for where God is leading you, and I know this is going to be a big year for you guys, very formational for you as a family, as individuals, and professionally as well. And I'm eager to see what the Lord does through you guys and what He does in you guys as well. So look forward to staying in touch, and hope you guys enjoy Thai food, and the Simeon's spice tolerance continues to increase and improve.
Us too. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for giving this time.
All right. Bless you guys.